I got into elder law after having a couple of years that I called my season of pain, when my brother and I were suddenly thrust into the position of having to make decisions with regard to our parents' care at what turned out to be the end of their lives. We didn't have a clue it was coming. They seemed healthy, independent. They seemed fine, and we never suspected that it was coming, and we were totally caught off guard, totally unprepared. There we go. And as a result, I got thrown into what's called the long-term care maze, which is a very complex, complicated, confusing situation to be in. And maybe some of you have experienced that, caring for your parent or caring for a sibling. I got involved as an elder law attorney to try to help people with that, to ease their pain, because I know how much pain I went through. So this talk was put together with a very ambitious title: Aging Successfully and Maximizing Your Quality of Life. And how do we do that? Well, what does it mean to age successfully? Many of us think it means that you stay healthy, you eat well, you might have good genes if you're lucky, you have a healthy bank account, you have a good, strong support system. But what if you don't have a good, strong support system? What if there's nobody on this island to jump in and help you at a moment's notice? What if your bank account is your house rich and cash poor? What if your health suddenly takes a turn that you didn't expect? What do you do then? Well, I submit to you that aging successfully doesn't depend on those things so much as it depends on maintaining control. Don't we all want to maintain control till we get to the end of our lives? That's what I believe is aging successfully, maintaining control. And think about the ways that you could lose control. We all want to leave something to our loved ones after we pass, but the chances of a health event derailing all of that are growing every day, unfortunately. And that serious health event could leave you and your family to try to navigate all the care options and figure out what you need to do on your own without any guidance, like I did. The way to maintain control, I believe, is to prepare. These are the areas that people get into the most trouble with once there is a major health event. Figuring out when to get help and where to get help. Where's it going to come from? How is help going to be provided? Who's going to be your caregiver? And what's it going to cost you? This is one that most people don't think about. Who's going to be your backup caregiver? Because if you get sick as the primary caregiver, the whole plan goes down. The person you're caring for now doesn't have somebody to care for them. So a backup plan has to be created. And then there are the legal and financial ramifications of all this. Are there documents in place that have been recently updated, naming a financial agent under a power of attorney who knows they're going to be the agent, who is up to the task, who can take care of your finances, knows where the accounts are? Or is it somebody that you put on a document 20 years ago and you never spoke to them about it? Same thing with a medical agent. Is that somebody who is well acquainted with your health history and knows what your values are so they can help you make good decisions for medical care when the time comes if you have trouble making them yourselves? These things need to be done in advance. This is part of preparation. And then the hardest one of all is when to leave home. When it's necessary to look for care outside of the house in a residential care setting, assisted living community, adult residential care home, a foster home, in some cases a nursing home. Those are tough ones. You don't think about it ahead of time and prepare. Who does it fall on? It falls on, 99% of the time, your daughter. And your daughter is going to feel guilty the rest of her life. Gee, did I make the right decision? I hope that's what mom would have wanted, because mom never told you. And that can haunt a person for the rest of their life if they never had that conversation. So this kind of comes back to my story. My story, it goes like this. I was running my business with my business partner. I had 3-year-old Asia at home, and all of a sudden my mom has a major stroke. And I, thought, I'm juggling all this other stuff. I'm pretty good at problem solving. I think I can handle this. I didn't have a clue. And so she was discharged from rehab to my house. And for the first month, I did everything. I managed her care. I helped her get up in the morning, get into the bathroom. She had to use a wheelchair because the right side of her body had been disconnected from her brain and it was impaired. So I had to learn the hows and whys and where-tos of the wheelchair situation. Had to get her dressed, get her some food, quickly learn that she choked on food. The swallowing was not good. We had to puree everything. It was just one thing after another. Take her to doctors, manage the transfer from the house into the car, into the doctor's office, and I'm thinking, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. But after a month, I got so sick. I don't think I've ever been so sick. Sick here, sick in my back. I could barely walk. And laying on the couch one night when I couldn't sleep, when I was in pain, I suddenly had an epiphany. I need help. I can't keep doing this. But that raised a big question. How do you get help? I didn't know how you get help. This is the start of a long-term care maze. How do you know who to call? How do you know whether they're any good? How do you judge that? And how do you choose them? How do you know what to pay and what's appropriate for them? And for many people, it's who's going to have the legal authority to hire and pay for this person? I knew at least that I had the legal authority. I'm an attorney. My mom had a power of attorney that named me, so that was covered. But for many people, that's not covered. If you don't have the legal authority to speak on someone's behalf, you got another, bump in the road you've got to solve. On top of this, there are a lot of myths that a lot of people still subscribe to. They think that nothing's going to happen to me. I'm just going to live in my house the rest of my life, and one day I'm just not going to wake up. It's simple, right? And if you talk to the doctor friends that I know, they'll tell you that's not how it happens. More likely, it's like you are a light on a dimmer switch. And the light is slowly going down, diminishing, you're becoming a little more impaired, you need a little more help until finally the light goes out. Very rare that you just don't wake up one morning when you were perfectly fine the day before. So we need to dispossess ourselves of that myth. Secondly, Medicare does not pay for this kind of help. Medicare is intended to pay for medical care. That's why it's called Medicare. And it doesn't pay for the help that you might need in the future, what we call long-term care. Help bathing, help eating, help getting to the bathroom, all those sorts of things. So that's not going to be a resource for you. There's a small exception if you're hospitalized and you go to rehab. Medicare will pay for a certain number of days to get you back on your feet, maybe with physical therapy and so forth, but that rarely gets to 100 days. More often than not, it's like 20, 25 days and you're out of there. And then the next decision has to be made, where do you go? Finally, I've had so many people say to me, I don't need to plan, I have long-term care insurance. Long-term care insurance is really helpful if you have it, but most of the time, it does not pay 100% for the cost of care. And unless you purchased the policy 25 years ago and have kept it up to date, you're going to be astounded to find that it only covers a portion. It's a piece of the puzzle. So look at the cost of a nursing home on average on Oahu. These days, it's $12,000 to $15,000 a month. A month. It's kind of astounding. Long-term care insurance helps, but it's not the only solution. So, how do you go about aging successfully and retaining control? Prepare. Think of it like you do every hurricane season, getting ready for the unexpected. You don't know what's coming. Remember one year we had 2 hurricanes coming at us. We didn't know if they were going to hit us. Some of us go straight to Costco, buy cases of water and toilet paper and Spam, and get all the furniture out of the yard and do everything we can to get ready just in case it hits us. But there are those people that say, oh, this is another false alarm. It didn't hit us last year. I'm not going to bother to do anything. And so they don't prepare. What are you preparing for? You're preparing for the storm I call incapacity that's out there on the horizon. And it could be a cognitive incapacity because of some kind of dementia. It could be a physical incapacity because of a progressive illness, a stroke, ALS, Parkinson's. There's a number of things. I'm sure that's not all of them. But once you lose capacity, you've got a problem. As lawyers, one of the first things that we have to inquire about is whether someone who comes to us for help has legal cognitive capacity, meaning that they understand the consequences of their actions and they can make rational decisions. They've got good reasons for the things that they want to do. This is important because if you don't have cognitive capacity, you can no longer sign a legal document. And that means that you need to prepare now while you do have cognitive capacity before it becomes in question. So these are the things you need to start thinking about as you prepare. Who's going to care for you? Be realistic. Saying, my kids will come and take care of me sounds great, but if they have full-time jobs and they're on the East Coast with little kids and activities and the whole 9 yards, how realistic is it that they can stop their lives and come here and become your full-time caregiver? Think about how care is going to get paid for. And we'll talk about some of the options, but start thinking about that. And then who do you trust to make the decisions for you that may need to be made if you reach a point where you can't make them? The financial decisions, somebody to pay your bills, and the medical treatment decisions. Who's going to do that? Who has the skill and the willingness to step in? The goal is, in preparing and planning now, to maximize your quality of life later on, and again, maintain control. That's what it's all about. How do you do that? Well, You've got to sit down and address the legal, financial, and personal needs that could come up once you begin to decline and you can see what's coming down the road. What we always recommend is that you work with a holistic team of advisors and navigators, people that have been through this, know what the road best traveled is, and can help you make good decisions. That job of the team now, while you're healthy and independent, is to help you stay healthy and independent, and to help you build support systems that can help when the day comes that you need them. You start with an elder law attorney. An elder law attorney has a mission to help people in the older stage of life, because our priorities change. And what's important to us, what was important to us in middle age may not be important to us now. So work with somebody who understands these issues. An elder law attorney will help you with getting your estate plan up to date. If you did it 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and I get calls like this all the time, it's been sitting on a shelf, dusty. Nobody's looked at it in years. The decisions you made when you created that 20, 30 years ago may not be the decisions you would make today. The people you named might be dead. They might have moved. They might be unreliable. You might have discovered they're unreliable. And tax laws change. Lots of things have changed in that 20 or 30 years. Don't count on those old dusty documents to serve you well when you really need them. We're looking at the will, the revocable trust, the verbal power of attorney, and the advanced health care directive. Those are the documents I'm referring to. And an important part of this review is identifying these agents that you're going to work with on financial and medical treatment decisions. And an elder law attorney is going to help you understand what's at stake and ask the right questions so that you identify the right person. I've had many people come to me and tell me they're going to appoint their oldest. The oldest can do it. The oldest might not have the wherewithal to do it. The oldest might not have the right skill set or be willing. It needs to be more thoughtful when you decide who is going to be working to represent you and to make sure that your wishes are followed. That's how you retain control. And an elder law attorney is going to help you create an inventory of your finances. Why is this important? Well, number one, your power of attorney, your agent under your power of attorney needs to know what's there. And every year, we don't know whether in the past year you've purchased more property, you have more assets, whether the assets have been put into your trust properly. We don't know if you've taken advantage of your emergency fund and taken a cruise to Europe. All of this needs to be reviewed every year. So, because we can't help if we don't know what the current state of things are. So every year this needs to be done. Discussing safety options that can keep you in your home longer. We really believe that if you seriously look at how to improve the safety in your home, you can improve your longevity in your home. You will most likely not end up having to go to a care home as soon if you seriously look at what needs to be done to make your home safer. And many people have lightened bathrooms and they've put in grab bars and added additional lighting, and all of that is really important. There's one word that keeps popping in my head: clutter, because there's no one I know that doesn't have clutter. Clutter needs to be looked at. It's a major problem. People trip on clutter. So these are things that we talk about as elder law attorneys. evaluating the potential need for Medicaid, a government assistance program, if there is a disease process that is likely to cause you to decline, expected to decline more as years go by, you may find that your money is seriously going to run out. And you need to think about what the options are when that time comes. Medicaid is the safety net program that can help, and there is a VA aid and attendance benefit for wartime veterans that can help. But you need to be thinking about these things and keeping your elder law attorney advised so they can be thinking of it before the need arises, because the process is complicated to get these benefits. Next, along with the elder law attorney, consider an elder care coordinator. What is an elder care coordinator? Everybody's scratching their heads. It's usually a person who has a great grasp of what the resources are on the island to help an older person. We have a registered nurse, some people have social workers, but they're people that are connected to you and can help you find the help that you need. So, what do? Well, in the pre-crisis period, where we all are now, everybody's doing okay. We want to give them a good understanding of what our baseline health is. How are we doing? Do we have any major health issues that could be a problem later? If they know what the baseline health is, then if there are changes, they can advocate for you to help get you the right help, medical care, to get you hopefully back to baseline. But first they need to become acquainted with where you are now. And then they're going to visit you every now and then and keep an eye on how you're doing. Monitor your situation for any changes that cause them to think this is the beginning of something that needs some attention. If you should end up having that serious health event, the elder care coordinator is now the best person who is prepared to jump in and help you in a crisis. Why? Because they know you, they know your family, they know your baseline health, and they've seen you regularly. They can jump in and help advise the family what needs to come next, even from the emergency room. Thinking about how to pay for care. This is part of the process of preparing. There are financial advisors that can help you with this, but we also look at this as something that elder law attorneys do because we're more acquainted. We don't sell financial products, and we're more acquainted with how quickly you can get access, get your hands on funds in the event of a crisis. So here's a few examples. You could have a cash fund that you just dedicate to long-term care. You just don't touch it. It's there as a resource in case something happens to you. That's a small percentage of us that do that. Most of us don't have a lot sitting around and they can just dedicate to long-term care. But there are some options, such as the reverse mortgage, called a home equity conversion mortgage, HECM, or a home equity line of credit, where you can take advantage of the equity in your home to pay for care. And there are pros and cons of both of those, but those are very viable solutions. I've had some people tell me reverse mortgages, it's kind of scary and expensive, and I was always told not to do that. And then you've got Tom Selleck on TV saying, no, it's fine. Those programs have improved dramatically, and they're not inexpensive, but they're not nearly as expensive as they once were. The cost of it gets rolled into the actual loan, much like a lot of mortgages do. So they're workable, and you can keep that money on a line of credit. Maybe you don't need it today, but you've got a line of credit and a checkbook and if you end up in the emergency room and you suddenly have to pay, you're going to a nursing home and you're going to have to write a check for $15,000, that checkbook from that line of credit is suddenly ready to go, and you've got the money available. Long-term care insurance, that's another piece of the puzzle, if you're lucky enough to have it. Nowadays, there are life insurance policies with long-term care riders that may be a better solution for you. You can use a portion of the death benefit to pay for long-term care. And there is something we call the Parental Protection Trust. If you have an affluent child who can purchase a life insurance policy with long-term care rider, we put that into a trust. If you need that money to help pay for care, it can be paid out of that trust. And what's left from the death benefit goes back to that child that purchased that policy. So there are lots of creative solutions. Most important thing though is to start thinking about it, create a financial summary and inventory. I think I'm going to end up saying this 3 times in this whole presentation because the people that are going to jump in to help you are going to need to know what's there, how do they access it, who do they call to make arrangements to get the money, get a check written to pay for your care. Now all of that has to do with the work that you need to do with your team, with your elder care coordinator, with your elder law attorney, but there are a lot of things you can do on your own to get ready. The first most important thing is have a family meeting. Sit down with your family and talk about what matters most to you, your own values. You know, are you, if you were the last day of your life, where would you like to be? Would you like to be in your garden with your dog? Would you like to be with your grandkids? Or do you want to be all alone? You have to talk about these things because your kids, as we said before, you don't want them to have to second guess and then feel guilty about it. They need to hear from you. I know from the experience I had with my parents, both of them died at home. I'm so glad they weren't in the hospital. That's my preference. And as many of you, and especially Jeanette knows, when I'm on my deathbed, somebody better be cooking bacon. Because that's the smell I want to be going out on. But you have to talk about these things, right? You have to say, I don't want that evil sister of mine who's always bugged me in my, coming here. Or, I want you to play music from when I was a teenager. Think about these things. Think about the ideal situation for you and talk about it. Talk about who you've named as your agents, because the rest of the family needs to accept them as your named agents. And they need to be willing to do the job. They need to know that the rest of the family is counting on them. And they have to have the right skill set. So if you have a family member who's a nurse, that might be a good person to have on your medical record, because they've got a perspective, a medical background that helps them with making decisions with you. If you've got a son who is in finance, he's the obvious person to choose as your financial agent, as long as you trust him and you get along well. Look at their backgrounds and their temperaments. And then look at the options that you would want if you suddenly needed care. Are you going to be depending upon your spouse to take care of you? Are you going to be depending upon your daughter? Or are you going to hire care? These things need to be talked about. And if you have a family member that's going to be the caregiver, think about how everyone else can contribute to care. And I say this because I've had many situations with one gender and saying, well, I work all day long and it's a long, hard day for me and I'm tired and I can't be a caregiver. Well, yes, but can't you pick up dinner a couple of nights a week and drop it off? Can't you pick up the laundry, bring it back next week all clean and folded? Can't you, when you're here dropping off dinner, take the trash cans down the curb? All these little things that can help the primary caregiver take some of the burden off. Everybody can help in some way or another. If you're on the East Coast and you can't do that, maybe you hire a caregiver to give you, the primary caregiver, some kind of, relax, a little respite period. But everybody can contribute. If you are what we call a solo ager, you don't have someone on this island to step in the case of emergency, then think about hiring a professional fiduciary now. Interview them, find somebody you're compatible with, and make a point of going to visit, have lunch with them once a year. Even if you don't think you need them because you're still fine, they need to know who you are. They need to know what your priorities are, because the day may come where they have to make decisions, and you want them to make decisions that are going to align with your priorities. So think about that. This is the one thing no one ever thinks of. Create a backup plan. I'm really big on backup plans. You've got to think about who's going to back up the primary caregiver. And in some cases, who's going to back up the backup. If everything is on one person's shoulders, and they go down, the whole ship goes down, and the person that really needs the care is the person that suffers. So create a backup plan. Create a backup plan. Make sure everyone knows what their job is, and give everybody an assignment. A few more practical tips. Create a medical inventory. This is something that contains all the information somebody would need to know about you. Who are your doctors? What prescriptions do you take? And what pharmacies do you use? Who are your caregivers? The recent visit summaries that you got at the doctor's should all be in there. Your medical insurance cards, put copies in there. Your Medicare card. And if you have long-term care insurance, you usually get an annual benefit statement. Put that in there as a reminder that you do have that coverage, because oftentimes people can pay that premium and then forget that they even have this coverage that can help them. Prepare a financial inventory. This can be in the same binder. Make a list of all your assets, your debts, your usual regular expenses, because someone might have to come in and make sure that they get paid properly, and your sources of regular income. And then if you have or anticipate that there will be a progressive illness that is going to slowly eat at your money, it might be a dementia diagnosis. It might be ALS or Parkinson's diagnosis, something that gradually over years is going to affect your bank balance. Then start thinking now about putting together the documents that you're going to need, to apply when the time comes. It's both the Medicaid application and the VA aid attendance application are lengthy, they're complicated, they require a lot of documentation, and if you have to start looking for it so you can file next week, good luck. You're going to need things that may be buried in your file somewhere, so get them out. Both of those programs have look-back periods. The Medicaid program allows the state of Hawaii to inquire about financial transactions that you might have engaged in going back 5 years. The VA now has a 3-year look-back period. So you may have to provide financial information, even statements, that go back as far as 5 years. I don't know anybody that keeps that stuff, but you might start thinking about it if you think that Medicaid may be on the horizon. DD 214 for those wartime vets and surviving spouses that might be applying for the aid and attendance benefit. You have to have the DD 214, and that's one that oftentimes gets lost. It can be, you can't buy it online, but it takes months and months to get. If you have digital accounts, email accounts, social media accounts, online banking, you need to make a list of those accounts and make a decision about what is to become of them if you become incapacitated. And then what is to become of them if you pass away. There are, in some social media, some of the sites like Facebook now have ways for you to designate ahead of time what's going to happen with your account once you pass away. So you can do that in advance. But if you put the information into a safe place, make sure your agent knows where it is, then they're prepared. They may need to get on your computer, they may need passwords, but they're now going to be prepared to take some action on your behalf. So, I'm getting out of breath, but here's the point. Life, as we know, is unpredictable, very, very unpredictable. And the best chance we have of maintaining some semblance of control is to prepare, not to just leave it to chance. And I think many of you know that lesson well. If you're prepared, I'm going to tell you right now, your family is going to be very happy about that. They're going to have a lot less anxiety. Now they know who to turn to, who to ask questions to when the day comes. The kids will feel like you've given them a gift. I wish I'd had that gift. I didn't. But for many kids, to know about this ahead of time will save them a lot of grief. You'll have a team of advisors that know you, know the finances, know the health background, know the family dynamics and the family support system. And if something happens and you're suddenly in the emergency room, they can jump in and help right away because you have a relationship with them. And finally, what you have documented as your wishes those things are going to get carried out because you took the time to document them. Your family and your representatives, your elder law attorney, your elder care coordinator are going to make sure that your wishes are carried out. And again, what does it come down to? Retaining control. You have spoken, even though you might have been incapacitated, and your family can now carry out your wishes. So, the storm of incapacity, let's hope, misses you, and you've done the preparation work that you need to do. But in any case, you have averted a disaster. Because I can tell you right now, if you do no planning until there is a crisis, it's a terrible time to plan. I had a lady call me last week about getting a power of attorney for her brother who has Alzheimer's. He has got end-stage Alzheimer's. I told her, I'm so sorry, it's too late. The only option left to you at this point is to petition the court for guardianship and conservatorship. And that's going to cost you upwards of 10 grand minimum, maybe 6 months of time, where you could have just had a power of attorney, done years before and avoided that whole thing. So think about the disasters that you want to avert. And keep control, be proactive, not reactive, and begin a relationship with people who can help. So, I hope I drove that home. Are there questions I can answer? Woo-hoo. Well done, first of all.